First, other than the note I sent you, I haven't said much because the provost of the university, Dan Linzer, asked me to not say much. He really wanted to look at what had been happening, and he had a process to look at it, you know, and he's the boss, and I said I would, and I needed to honor that. So with the exception that I wrote you the note I did, which was probably pushing the limit a bit of what he wanted anyway, I said I would wait till it was done, and fortunately now here we are. I want to start with the obvious question. Did I lie with the quote I used in a letter to the alums about a student in a class a year ago? Let's start there. The answer is, I sure didn't. Absolutely not. Was the student real? The answer is, yes, the student was real. There are some people who would like you to think that I did lie, and I'm going to come back to that in a minute, but first I think I owe you a sort of walkthrough of what happened, and then I'll tell you my view of how I think this has gone and where we are. Some of you, especially some of the juniors and seniors in the room, will find this pretty familiar. I regularly attend as many classes as I possibly can during the quarter, but more importantly near the end of the quarter to kind of see work at all levels, graduate and undergraduate. So I attended a class in the winter quarter of last year, and as I always do, it's sort of a habit I've had for decades. I sit there with a reporter's notebook, both to be able to think about it later, but also to really follow what's going on and take notes. And some of you who've been around a long time see me generally doing that. I talked with students before the class, I always do. I talked with students after the class. I'm told by a couple of people in the class, I also asked some fairly pushy questions, since all of us who were there were asked to critique the work that was there. When I left, again, as I really always do, I said to the people I was talking to, you know, this class came long before Medill 2020, came before I was dean, been around since the 90s, but it was an interesting class because it had Medill and non-Medill and CAS and other students, and so I said, you know, I'd be interested in further comments you have, send me emails about it. And I got a letter. I got some. And I filled them in a file on my computer with student notes. Sometime later, I don't remember when, it came to be my turn to write this letter that goes on the front cover of the Medill magazine. And so I went to my notes, and I went to the emails, and I pulled stuff out, and I looked back at what other people had done with that letter, and I wrote a letter. Was the letter real? Was the student real? Because, well, there were two, actually, in the letter that got the most attention. One was about some students that did a video downtown. Of course they were real, and I cited a link to their work, and the other was the quote that's gotten so much attention. And it was absolutely something in front of me, and I cannot tell you 12 months later whether it was one of the emails or the notes I took. And I don't have them, and I'm sorry, but I can't tell you that. Now, there's some other pieces that go with that. Some people have said, well, was the quote representative of what the students in the class, a group of them, a subset of them, might have said? Answer, yes, it was. You can find that out for yourself because you can go on and look at the C-text for the class. But don't misunderstand me. The quote was real from a real person. Even if it might have represented the opinion of some of those students, it wasn't like what they said. It was different, and it was a real person. Of course, as an aside, if I had wanted a quote that said something nice about the class, and you can see this as well, all I would have had to do is go to the C-text. So there was no need to make it up, but I had another one. So that's the situation before us. Now we're here 12 months later. Okay. And when it happened, when this came up and the column appeared in the Daily, you know, they asked me about it first and said, where did it come from? And I thought, well, it must have come from an email, and I really thought about it, and I remembered where I sat in the room, and subsequently a reporter from the Tribune called me, and I said, you know, I'm not sure whether it came from an email or from notes I took in the class, I really don't remember. I don't have them anymore, but I thought, well, maybe I can get them. And I told you about that because I wrote you a note after we spent a couple of days and a whole lot of time and money with Microsoft trying to reconstruct our drives. And it turns out that the kind of servers we have can't be brought back, so that's gone. That's all I can tell you. I don't have any more to say about it because there really isn't any more. So you're either going to believe me or you're not going to believe me, and I'm sorry, but I haven't got any really more to add. But I do have a couple of questions to ask, and you ought to take these questions because they're part of this whole process. Question number one, why is it in 12 months, that not one student, one faculty member, one alumni, of the 12,000 alumni who got our magazine, raised any questions about that letter? As a matter of fact, no one has raised any questions about the 3 deans before me who ran letters with unnamed quoted students in them. You know, Roth, Gileone, Bodie, all quoted students in letters in the magazine. No one over those years raised any questions about it. So that's one question. Question number 2. We have conflicting views of what went on there. You've read some of them. I assume you've got a lot more to do than just read them, but you read something. David Speth says in his original column, I talked to all 29 students, those that graduated, those that were here. Professor Hayton sent you a note the other day that I read as I got when you got it, in which he said that some students told him they didn't answer Speth's questions. Different tack. Today, North by Northwestern came out and says that a Medill senior didn't remember my being in the class. I must have made a big impression. And some other students said she didn't say the quote. As, by the way, Northwestern said no one that they talked to said they said the quote. But she mostly agreed with the statement. So we have, you know, it depends on which side you look through. There's all different views of that class. And of course, I would say, reasonably, there should be. It was 12 months ago. If someone came up to you and said, please tell me now what you wrote on a C-text in a class in winter quarter a year ago, or even more, tell me what you said before, during, and after final class a year ago. You have to judge that for yourself. How good would your real memory be? I think the differences that I just read are real.